In which god did the Turks actually believe before they accepted Islam? In the so-called Bittig, the Book of Divination, which was written in the 9th century in East Asia, a certain name drops many times throughout the text: Tengri. This being is, in one passage, described as the god of the Turks. It is him who the Turks and other steppe peoples like the Mongols and Huns prayed to before converting to other religion. Thus, the original religion of all Turkic peoples, i.e. the Anatolian Turks, Kazakhs, Tartars, Uighurs, and their cultural ancestors, was Tengrism, a religious system built around its name-giver. Tengri is the omnipotent ruler of the eternal blue sky, a being who, unlike other religions, has not been personified. This entity took on a similar role in the cosmology of Tengrism as, for example, the deity An for the Sumerians, Akhenaten for the Egyptians, or Zeus for the Greeks. But whereby Zeus was only one of the gods mentioned to be depicted as a human-like figure, the prime god, so to say, An or Tengri, do not have any personality traits. Yet, it is difficult describing Tengri's role in this religion without using some kind of personification. Tengri sees and hears everything. However, Tengri is not explicitly a punitive god. If someone had lived a morally good life, he would definitely be treated well in the afterlife. Someone who has consistently misbehaved would have to bear the consequences and go through the many levels of the underworld until he would have to answer to its godlike being, Erlik. This is the first aspect that makes Tengrism so unique. Despite its seemingly monotheistic orientation, there are many other divine beings such as Erlik or Umay, the protector of all unborn children and equated with Mother Earth. People whose souls were not at rest at death are reborn and given a second chance to live a decent life. The souls of all other people are partially transferred into things in nature. Trees, mountains, rivers, and lakes are inhabited by the so-called earth-water spirits, the Yersu, who are supposed to ensure a balance between nature and man and watch over mankind. Tengrism was the dominant religion of the Central Asian steppes long before Christ's birth and, thanks to the European Huns, Avars, the Kök-Türks, Magyars, and Bulgars, it reached as far as Europe. Gradually, the Bulgarians adopted Christianity. The Huns were completely assimilated in Central and Eastern Europe and basically vanished from the history books. And other Tengrists, such as the Turks, slowly adopted liberal forms of Sunni Islam. Although almost all Turkic peoples now belong to other faiths, and the Mongols have officially sworn allegiance to a certain variation of Buddhism, elements of Tengrism can be seen today. For example, many customs of Tengrism is still practiced in Turkic-speaking countries, from Turkey to Kazakhstan, among the Yakuts in Siberia, as well as the Tartars in the Crimea. Certain rules of behavior after the birth of a child, and before the funeral of a family member. The decorating of wishing trees, sacred numbers such as 7 and 40, and the shaman drum. The shaman, whose title is actually Kam in Old Turkic, did not play a central role in Tengrism. This needs to be stressed. The ancient Turks were not shamanists, unlike some old history books would like to tell you, although the shaman did perform important ceremonial and advisory tasks. Thus, he mastered herbalism and acted as a healer of the sick. He also had to perform ceremonial rites to contact Tengri and the other deities, and therefore communicate between the ruling class and heaven. The shaman were therefore present, but not as critical within the belief system as in real primitive shamanist cultures. Generally, in Tengrism, there is a harmonious balance of forces. Ideally, people should live in harmony with nature. They should not eat and drink more than necessary. They should not cause destruction to other peoples, and should not exploit other people or nature for their own benefit. Related to this is the acceptance of other religions. Tengrism was syncretic. Its followers accepted aspects of other religions, and even incorporated them into their beliefs, much like the Romans, Egyptians, or Sumerians. The polytheistic character of the faith can be seen in the variety of deities or godlike beings firmly anchored in Turkic mythology, such as Kyra, who carries the soul of Tengri and watches over the universe. The latter son Alaz is the god of fire, who could purify the souls of people after their sojourn into the underworld. Kuyash, another son of Tengri, is the ruler of the sun. Every morning people prayed to Kuyash that the sun would rise and fill the earth with its warm light. Ulgen acted as Tengri's vice, stood for good, welfare, and surplus of food and water. He is opponent of Erlik. In an epic battle, Ulgen was able to defeat Erlik, and from that moment on, he assumed the role of the protector of the people on earth. Asit, like Umay, was goddess of fertility and responsible for listing all newborns in the Golden Book of Destiny. While Ai-Ata, god of the moon, dwelled on the 6th floor of the sky, along with Gun-Ana, goddess of the sun. Values such as courage, modesty, and justice were held in high esteem by the Turks as well as the Mongols and Huns. And, at least among the Turks, equality between the Turkic woman and man was considered more likely than in sedentary societies. While most of the rulers of the Tengri states may have been male, women took on roles not only as diplomats, but also as generals and governors. For the most part, their roles were to maintain societal order and strengthen cohesion among the people. The Chinese scholars, who wrote a great deal about the Turks, found such emancipatory qualities unusual and even ridiculous. During their early contacts, they made fun of the Turks due to the higher value of females within Turkic society. Nevertheless, they were also amazed by the widespread honesty that was common among the common people, from which they partly inferred the naivete and good nature of certain Kök-Türk rulers. However, the most important tenet of Tengrism is to learn from mistakes, leave behind the past, and create a better future for oneself and one's family. Thus, everything that exists is part of an eternal cycle of life. For this reason, trees, like the tree of life, are sacred beings in Turkic mythology even today, among sacred animals such as the wolf, the falcon, or the horse. While the wolf's importance stems from the founding myth of the Kök-Türk Ashina dynasty, this is why the wolf sign is quite popular today, as a way to remember the origins of the First Turkic Empire. The falcon, as well as the eagle and other bird races, can be seen in many places as symbols of Turkic dynasties and families. Falcons were of course widely used as transportation device with regards to information transfer within the Turkic realms, a practice that was very common in other societies too. The horse, however, did play the most important role in Tengri societies. The horse was the transportation method of the steppe peoples, more so than in sedentary countries. Every boy and girl had to learn how to ride a horse, and later how to use it to hunt and even fight in battle. This is why the steppe peoples, from the Huns to the Turks and of course the Mongols, were so successful in battle. The horse allowed to stay versatile during military operations, and also enabled hit-and-run tactics that were most certainly employed by the Mongols. Man is as much a part of this world as plants or animals, but unlike them, he can of course intentionally harm his environment. Therefore, humans must observe certain rules in order to maintain the balance of powers. Someone who must go to the underworld after death is not trapped there forever. Instead, the souls are allowed to ascend to the afterlife after their punishment has been served and settle on the 3rd floor of the afterlife. The afterlife and the underworld each have 7 floors. Tengri dwells on the highest floor of heaven, and Erlik on the last floor of the underworld. Connected to this is the idea of the Tree of Life, the axis mundi of Turkic mythology, which connects heaven and hell with earth, and allows ascent and descent between these worlds. The Turks thus shared in their cosmology a concept that exists in the Scandinavian countries of Europe, and Tengri bears striking similarities to the Sumerian god Dingir, as well as Deities, the sky god of Indo-European mythology. Over the centuries, however, this polytheistic religion became more and more specific. In the time of Genghis Khan's Mongol Empire, Tengri was not only the highest, but the only really important entity who ruled over the fate of all people. Not without reason did the Mongolian emperor begin each of his speeches to his soldiers before a battle with the legendary words, "We have gathered here under the eternal blue sky, Tengri, the creator of our people, the almighty lawgiver." While exchanging letters with European leaders, and even the Pope, the rulers of the Mongol Empire always started their texts with this famous sentence, and could be interpreted as a religious creed. In any case, Tengriism is not dogmatic. Someone who constantly praises Tengri but leads an antisocial life must pay Erlik a visit after death. But another who would not have prayed to Tengri or even ever thought of himself, someone who is perhaps a follower of other religions, but who did leave a good life, would be rewarded by Tengri. The details of social order, rights and prohibitions of the people within a nation must be worked out by the people among themselves. Tengriism merely provides the framework for coexistence. Even if Turkic, Mongolic, and Hunnic history were all accompanied by wars and suffering, the connection to Mother Earth never really diminished. Even when two people were unbearable and wanted to fight each other to the death, they had to respect the balance of nature and animals surrounding them. The exploitation of the earth had always to be limited to the bare necessities. The hunting of wild animals was only allowed to take place until the whole family was fed. It was not the appetite and the desire for pleasure that was the main concern of the Tengris peoples, but the necessity to survive. No more, no less. In this sense, Tengriism is less a religion and more a philosophy of life. A philosophy with norms and rules that are very well up to date in our contemporary world. A balance between humans and nature. A balance within society as well as humans being part of a life stream, so to say, that flows eternally and connects all living things. While Tengriism does borrow a lot of elements that we could mark as fantastical, it does profoundly summarize motifs and beliefs from all over the world. There is no holy book for this so-called religion. Everyone must figure out for themselves how to live their lives. But in times of despair or even agony, Tengri could very well become a point of orientation to guide the people to a better life. Then again, one cannot help but indeed personify Tengri. Perhaps because, like in almost all other religions, we as humans feel safer when we know that somewhere in the sky, a conscious entity has been watching over us all the time. This was a quick summary of Tengriism, the ancient religion, or rather philosophy, of all peoples in the Eurasian Steppe. Since this channel, Khan's Den, is focused on Turkic history, all points made were told from a Turkic perspective. However, there are only minor differences between the Turkic and Mongol variants of Tengriism, mainly the names of certain entities. If you like this video and would like to know more about Tengriism and Turkic history, consider leaving a comment and subscribing to this channel. Thanks, and see you around.
Kök-Tengrim koldasın, yer anam Umay korgasın, yer jarılıp şöp bolsun, yeli jarılıp süt bolsun, her vakın jar bolsun, kevdesi dolu ar bolsun. Amin.